The Sports Renegades podcast on SportsTownChicago.com. Welcome back to the Sports Renegades here on SportsTownChicago.com. I'm Ryan Stuprich.
And I'm Ryan Risky, and now we're going to get our NFL picks for the week going. And before we get into that, we want to take a recap from last week. Who won last week?
Let me take a look. All right, last week was Week 13 in the NFL. I ended up winning 10-9.
By one pick.
All of them have been very close. I ended up winning 10-9, and that would have been... we were only different on 3 picks last week.
That means of those picks, you got 2 right, and I got 1.
Right. Atlanta, Tampa Bay. I picked Tampa Bay. Jacksonville and Tennessee. I picked I picked Tennessee. You picked Jacksonville. And then Houston and Buffalo. I picked Houston. You picked Buffalo. I think the Bills ended up winning that. I have no clue, but I know I won by 1 point. I don't know what that brings the season total to. I think I'm up by a couple weeks. I think if you win out, you might win, but I'm not sure. Let's move on to this week in the NFL, Week 14.
Last week the Bills did win.
Okay, so that was the one that you got right, and then the other ones you got wrong.
That Jacksonville and Tennessee game was probably the best game of the week, honestly, 42-39.
Yeah, that was a pretty exciting game. I kind of saw the end of it, sort of, and it was pretty exciting. Okay, let's start off with the game that is kicking off in a couple minutes. Minnesota at Arizona. Minnesota is ravished with injuries, and Carson Palmer and Arizona have been playing really well lately, and I hope Arizona wins, so I'm going with them.
Yeah, it's such a tough pick because it's 2 division-leading teams. I think the Cardinals are the better team now, and obviously the passing game for the Vikings has kind of toned it down a bit since Stephon Diggs came back down to earth. He's still a very good receiver. It's just he was really having some big games for a 5th-round pick in his rookie year, having 3 or 4 straight 100-yard games with with a touchdown in each game.
Right, so we're both going with Arizona there. That's pretty easy. We got the Bills at the Eagles. This is a tough matchup. The Eagles had a surprising win against New England.
Yeah, their special teams were the reason that New England lost, because they had a 83-yard punt return touchdown, a block punt for a touchdown, a 100-yard pick six. So the Eagles are coming off a really good win. I really think they're going to carry that momentum into this week. I think they're going to try to get the run game a little more established. I'd say look for Jordan Matthews to get more involved. Same with Darren Sproles. He really hadn't been doing anything until that punt return, and then for a touchdown. Then they started using him more in the pass game out of the backfield. I'd say look for Darren Sproles to make another big impact. I think the Eagles are going to beat the Bills.
Okay, I'm going to go opposite. I think the Bills are going to go into Philadelphia and beat up on a team that's really not that good. They beat a New England team that has the most injuries out of anybody anytime, and they were able to beat Tom Brady, which is a success. Although I think the Bills are a better team. Defensively, especially, and I think...
Oh, absolutely. They have Rex Ryan running their defense. I'd say watch Sammy Watkins try to burn Byron Maxwell all day, because Byron Maxwell has not been living up to his 6-year contract that he signed with the Eagles. I'd say look for Sammy Watkins to try and make some big plays.
Yeah, and I think he will. I feel like the Bills are the better team here. I think they go in. They're 6-6 right now. They'd improve to 7-6 with a win. Seattle at Baltimore. Seattle is starting to turn it around, man.
They really are. Remember, we were thinking, maybe the Bears could try to beat them out at one point for a wild card spot, except Russell Wilson is the one that's turned it on. 8 touchdowns in his last 2 games. I don't know how you can't go with Seattle in the hot hand. I'd say watch Russell Wilson try to make some more plays. And it's kind of ironic that the pass game took off when Jimmy Graham went out for the season. And Doug Baldwin, wow, has he been really good. I mean, he's been catching 2 touchdowns a game. He's looking like a number 1 receiver right now. Look for Russell Wilson to keep throwing his way.
Oh, yeah, I definitely agree. I've always liked Russell Wilson. He's a pretty good quarterback, very mobile, obviously. And, I mean, it should be no problem going into Baltimore and beating the Ravens and Mark Trestman, which is always fun to beat.
I'd say probably look for Matt Schaub to throw another pick six. I mean, It's unfortunate that he's a good quarterback that's just been plagued by pick sixes, you know.
Right.
He'd still be a starting quarterback if all his interceptions weren't run back for touchdowns.
I agree with that. Yeah, we're both going with Seattle. That's a pretty easy one to pick, hopefully. 49ers at Cleveland. This is a little bit tougher. My initial reaction is I think the 49ers go in and get a win because the Browns are just so bad. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, the Browns seem like they're getting worse. They're going to put Johnny Manziel back in there, which is kind of weird that he was only benched for one game for the partying issues. Mm-hmm. I think they finally realized they need to know what they have in him if he can be a starting NFL quarterback. You know, the Browns have been really bad this year. I just don't think the 49ers are going to beat them. I think, you know, they had a nice win against the Bears. I just don't think they can do it 2 weeks in a row. I think the Browns are going to win.
Okay, you're going to go with the Browns. I'll stick with the 49ers. Detroit at St. Louis. This is a good offense the last few weeks versus a bad team the last few weeks in St. Louis.
Yeah, I think Detroit's finally got their offense going. I think they're going to pull out a win. They're going to look for Matthew Stafford to have another good game in the passing game. And remember, they were literally just a Hail Mary away from beating Green Bay.
They were.
Which is pretty sad.
Yeah, I agree. I think Detroit's going to go in there and win. St. Louis is really bad. Jeff Fisher, I think people are finally starting to realize that, you know, he's barely had any winning seasons, and he's really not that good of a coach.
Their offense with Jeff Fisher just has been really bad every year.
Right.
I mean, they don't have any offensive playmakers besides Todd Gurley.
And their defense isn't anything special anymore. I mean, it once was, and they always have high expectations,
right,
but they never do anything.
They really had a good defensive line for a while.
Yeah, I agree, and I also hope that if any team is moving to Los Angeles, it's the St. Louis Rams. I feel like that's going to happen.
Yeah,
anyway,
I don't know. There's a rumor
know.
that the city of St. Louis is going to fund a new stadium for the Rams.
That'd be exciting, yeah, because their stadium is pretty bad. The Scott Trade Center, I think, is where they play. Tennessee at the Jets. The Jets have not been playing too well. They did squeak out an overtime win against the
got
Giants.
A lucky win against the Giants from bad play calling. Like, why was Tom Coughlin going for it on 4th down up by 10?
Right.
Tennessee's coming off a big win. I think Marcus Mariota, Brandon Marshall's been really good for the Jets these past couple weeks. He's had like 9 or 10 catches, 130 yards, and 2 touchdowns each game the past couple weeks. It's a really tough matchup because Mariota's been getting better every week with limited offensive playmakers. I think that the Jets are going to find a way to get an important win to remain in a wild card spot.
I agree. We'll rapid fire the next few before we do an update, and then we'll finish this off. Pittsburgh at Cincinnati. This is a big game.
Very big game.
Huge game for Pittsburgh.
Yes, and the Bengals, since they started out 8-0, finally have come back down to earth. Tyler Eifert is injured. He's questionable to play. And right now, I think that Pittsburgh's going to win. Their offense has been on a tear recently. D'Angelo Williams has filled in nicely for the injured Le'Veon Bell. Roethlisberger has been involving Marcus Wheaton and Martavis Bryant into the offense to go along with Antonio Brown. I'd say look for those 3 receivers to have another huge game as a group.
I agree. I think Pittsburgh is going to win. They need this win to stay in contention for anything, really. Otherwise, they'll be falling fast. Hopefully their defense can hold up because Pittsburgh can definitely score enough points to win. It's just will Cincinnati end up outscoring them? Hopefully that's not the case.
Right, because the Pittsburgh Steelers backfield has their defensive backs have been a little shaky this year, allowing some big plays.
Okay, we just talked about Pittsburgh and Cincinnati, both going with Pittsburgh. Now let's move on to Colts at Jacksonville. This is the big matchup within the division, I guess you could say.
The Colts need to win this game. They need to win it. Jacksonville's 2 games behind the Colts only. And if Jacksonville were to win, they're only 1 game behind them. The Colts own the tiebreaker over the Texans for the AFC South. I think the Colts are going to win this game, though. I think that Matt Hasselbeck is going to be able to find a way to beat a Jacksonville team. And I think it is the kind of game that they're just going to do just enough to win. I think Blake Bortles is going to build off him and Allen Robinson will build off their big games against Tennessee last week. I think Robinson will have over 100 yards again.
The Colts have, a lot of good receivers, so I'm not too worried about it. I think the Colts are also going to win. They still have T.Y. Hilton. They still have, Matt Hasselbeck's still a pretty good quarterback.
Right.
At least he knows what to do.
He was a little shaky last week.
Yeah.
Obviously, he got injured.
Yeah, so I agree, Colts. San Diego at Kansas City. Kansas City is fighting for a wild card spot now. Who would have thought at the beginning of the season?
After losing to the Bears, it looked like their season was going in a downward spiral. They rebounded and they started winning, and they beat the Chargers 33-3 at San Diego, and I think they're going to beat the Chargers again this week.
We're both going with KC. All right, the big matchup of the week, the Redskins at the Bears.
Yeah, wow. The Redskins coming off a bad loss to Dallas, which, they needed to win that game because somehow the injury-riddled Cowboys still haven't been knocked out of winning the division, even though they're only one game behind the Redskins, the Eagles, and the Giants. Granted, Tony Romo is out for the year, and it'll be difficult. The Bears, they've only won one home game. You and I were both at the Raiders game.
Yes, we were.
I don't think they're going to win this game.
Okay.
I think Cutler's going to have the off-field distraction of his wife's brother being found dead.
Yeah, his brother-in-law died in Utah or something, so yeah.
So I think he's going to have something on his mind, and I think the Redskins are going to be able to pull it out in a close game.
I'm going with the Bears. Bounce back win. Doesn't mean anything, but these are the type of games the Bears win. These meaningless end-of-the-year games.
That they need to start to lose at this point. They're not making
at this
the
point.
playoffs.
Yeah, they needed to beat San Francisco.
Better off
getting
the 6th or the 7th pick again in the draft.
If they beat San Francisco, this would be a much more important game with playoff implications. But yeah, I'm still going to go with the Bears, though. I really hope they don't end up with one home win during the season. That would be extremely embarrassing.
Yeah, remember Ted Phillips said that he wanted teams to fear coming into Soldier Field.
Right.
That hasn't been the case this year.
It's never been the case. Never since they updated it in 2003. It's never been the case. Atlanta at Carolina. We'll go through the rest of these pretty quickly.
Carolina's going to stay undefeated.
I agree. Matt Ryan and the Falcons are in all sorts of turmoil.
They've been blowing games late. They've had a lot of really bad losses after starting 5-0, and I think Carolina's going to find a way to shut down Julio Jones.
I agree. I'm going with the Panthers. That defense is strong. Cam Newton's playing out of his mind. New Orleans at Tampa Bay.
Tampa Bay's been on a really good streak. I think they're going to find a way to pull out a win over Drew Brees and the Saints.
So do I. I agree. Tampa Bay's going to win. Bears play them coming up next week or the week after that. Oakland at Denver.
Denver's offense was looking really good with Brock Osweiler for a little bit. I really don't think that he should remain the starter. He's been having trouble throwing deep down the field. I think Denver's going to win this game, except I think it's going to become more obvious after this game that they probably should put Manning back in. As bad as outrageous as that sounds, I don't think that they'll do very much with Brock Osweiler pretty much in his first year starting.
I think Osweiler's due for a loss. I think Oakland will have an upset. I think they're going to pull it off. Derek Carr's been playing pretty well, despite the team as a whole not playing very well. So I think Amari Cooper finally gets involved up there in Denver and gets a couple touchdown passes. I think Oakland ekes out a win at Denver. Dallas at Green Bay, the battle from last year, where was it a catch? Was it not a catch by Des Bryant?
Yeah,
I
don't think Dallas can survive a half against Green Bay this time around.
I agree.
I think Green Bay is going to win. Aaron Rodgers is going to finally have one of those big games that people have been wondering, where are those big games?
I agree. Unfortunately, I think the Packers are going to win 2 more games. The Sunday night game is New England at Houston.
New England at Houston. I don't know how you can pick against the Patriots right now when they're playing a team like Houston.
I don't think New England loses 2 games in a row. That's my feel for it. I feel like it's going to be low scoring, though, because Houston's defense, we know how good it can be.
Right.
I feel like it's going to be low scoring, but the Patriots do have Steven Gostkowski, the best, probably furthest field goal kicker in the game.
Yeah, see, I don't know. I think they're going to find a way to get Danny Amendola more involved. They're going to get James White in the backfield and the pass game more involved. I think the offense is going to look a little better than it did last year.
Yeah, I know that the Patriots won't lose 2 games in a row. If they do, then those injuries really are going to hurt them. We're both going with New England on the road at Houston.